Nigel Saunders, and today the Bonsai Zone is traveling into the world of the 1982 movie Blade Runner. You're probably wondering what the movie Blade Runner has to do with bonsai. Well, there is a connection. There are 4 bonsai trees featured in the 1982 movie, 2 at Tyrell's headquarters and 2 in Deckard's apartment. The bonsai featured are all mature juniper bonsai. I wanted to create a bonsai in the style of the trees featured in the Blade Runner movie, a replicant of the ones in the film. I had to find a juniper that I could style as a traditional Japanese bonsai. I found that a mature juniper for sale is not very easy to find. I did finally locate one, and here begins the story of creating the Blade Runner Replicant. Here's a shot of the juniper bonsai that I purchased. That'll be turning into my Blade Runner Replicant bonsai tree. Let's go in now and have a close-up look at the tree to see what I'm starting with. Here's a shot of the roots of the tree. As you can see, the tree's well tied into the pot. It's not going to fall out. And the overall health of the tree looks pretty good. The tree looks like it has lots of foliage close to the trunk, but it's actually not the case. I've turned the tree around 180 degrees, so this is the back of what you were looking at before. And this branch here, it looks like it's growing close to the trunk, but it's not. It's a branch that's coming off the end of this long trunk line. Here's a close-up of that branch. You can see all the growth of this tree comes at the end of this very long snake-like trunk. Today I want to come up with a plan of action for this tree, what steps I'll take to make this into a really nice replicant tree for the future. Whenever I get a new tree, the first thing I do is look at the health of the tree, because you can't create a bonsai with a weak or tree that's in mediocre shape. When I'm developing or growing a bonsai tree, I like to do everything in steps. And the first thing I look at is the roots of the tree. Roots are the foundation of the tree. Roots give the tree its health, its strength, and its visual appeal. After I've developed a really nice root system on the tree, the second step is to grow the trunk. The third step is then to start growing your branches. The tree has a lot of really nice surface roots that are quite usable. There is the odd root that isn't so nice, like this one. It wraps around the trunk and goes down into the root balls somewhere. So come spring, I'm going to repot the tree, and I'm going to try and sort out as many roots as I can and try and get the tree in super shape. So I grow a lot of new roots. I'll probably put it in a different container, a larger container, and I'll definitely change the soil. I notice when I'm watering it that the water doesn't get into the tree very much. There's been fresh soil put around it, but it's pretty compacted in at the root base here. So I think repotting is really going to help the health of this tree. After the repotting and getting the roots in really good shape, the next step will be to look at the trunk of the tree. It does have a dead section that starts just above the root base and curls up around the tree and ends with a deadwood branch near the top of the tree. Along the trunk, there's a few places where a large branch has been removed, just cut flush. There's one down here also, just cut flush. That'll need some carving out, so it'll heal over naturally, so it'll build up a collar around this deadwood section. And some of the trunk may be dead back further too. Usually when you cut off a large branch on a tree, you get some dieback going back down the trunk line. Here's a shot of the deadwood near the base of the tree, and you can see some of it's starting to rot away. So it's going to need a big cleanup around this area. We'll have to paint some lime sulfur to preserve the wood and just do a general cleanup to the base of the tree. I haven't picked a front of the tree yet. There's a lot of angles that could look really good. I want to get it repotted, and I want to get that trunk cleaned up. And then I'm going to start taking a really good look at the tree and decide what to do with the styling. One of the major problems with this tree is that all the foliage comes from the end of the very long branch or trunk line. With the foliage being right at the end of the trunk or the branches, there's a few styling possibilities. If this is our tree and it comes up and snakes around, it's possible to create an apex out at the end of the branches. That looks really good as a traditional bonsai. The other option, it's possible to graft foliage onto the trunk and create another apex here, which gives it a more traditional cascading look to the tree. A third possibility is to take cuttings or an approach graft from this long section and bring it up the deadwood channel in the trunk and grow a new apex. So it can either be done with grafting foliage to the trunk or a cutting or an approach graft coming up the tree to create a central apex. So this would be your first apex. This would be your smaller secondary one, still forming a triangle. That's my plan for my Replicant bonsai tree. It's going to be a long project, and it's going to start next spring with repotting. I'm really excited about getting my Replicant bonsai underway, and now it's time for today's update. Today's update is my Indian rubber tree bonsai. These are Ficus elastica. In the last video on these trees, I had just gotten this ficus from the nursery, and I planted it into bonsai soil, and it's been growing really well. It's also been growing a lot of aerial roots that have been coming out of the soil and growing in the air. Here's the point where I originally cut the trunk off shorter, and it's regrown a new apex up here. My original plan with this tree was if I cut the trunk off here, I would get new branches growing out from these lower leaves. So at the base of each leaf, I would get a new branch growing. That didn't happen. I didn't get branches coming down low from the tree. I only got the one new leader growing up near the pruning point. I still want to get those lower branches on the tree. So just because I didn't get them the first time I cut it off, doesn't mean it won't happen eventually. I have a stronger root system in the soil now. So I'm going to try again. I'm going to cut the tree off right here. And we'll try and grow lower branches again. The top of this tree can be planted as a cutting. All I do is cut off the lower leaves. I'll stick the cutting about this deep in the soil and give it lots of warmth and light. So that's it for the work on the first tree. I'm really looking forward to seeing this growing into a beautiful bonsai. With the rest of the little ficuses that were growing in the pot, I planted them in a clump style. When I first planted these little trees, I had a strip of rubber wrapped around all these trunks to keep them together so they would grow in a clump style. After a while, after the trees got established in the pot, I removed the rubber. As all these trunks thicken up, they'll all fuse together and create a really nice base to this planting. I'm going to be reducing the height of the tree to get more branching and ramification down lower. I'll want the thickest trunk to be the tallest tree in the planting. So I'm going to start by cutting it off right here. The second thickest trunk will be a little shorter. So I'll take that off right in here. And I'll reduce this tree down to here. And I'm always pruning to an outward facing leaf, so my trees fan outwards. And I'll take this one off right here. this one here. I've got one I can take off to here. And this one to here. These rubber trees naturally have large leaves, but you can see that, with proper bonsai techniques, you can reduce the leaves so they're all about this size eventually. There's a close-up of the trunks. I think all the trees did really well for their first growing season. There's a shot of the rubber trees all pruned up and they're ready to grow for the winter. It's time now to have a look at some viewers' picks. Today's pictures come from Tom in Tottenham, London. He has a 23-year-old white pine that somehow disappeared from his bench and was brought back 5 days later. He also has a chunky pyracantha. He has an olive tree. He has a blue juniper and a little thyme bonsai. So thanks, Tom, for sending in your pictures. That's all for today's Blade Runner special. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.